G'day there, Vibers. The one and only Valley Viber here. Hope you're all doing well. I don't have a medical Monday ready for you today, so instead I figured I'd do a musical Monday. I'm finally getting around getting a string or two on my electric guitar, so I figured I'd bring you along for the journey and show you how to restring a guitar for you new guitarists. Although I'm only going to do the high E, but let's get into that. Now I have two separate guitars here to which I'm adding a string to. I've got this one here, and they're both the high E string that I'm adding. I've still got strings on here. I've just had the high E snap on, coincidentally, both of my guitars. So the thinnest string, or what they call the high E, on both guitars. Why do I have two electric guitars? Well, that's not what this video is about. There's different types of guitars, and if you want different types of tunings, it makes it quicker to switch songs, especially if you're playing in a gig or whatever. There's different types of guitars, for example, and that's one thing I will say in this video, and that's why I've shown you both types of guitars here. Now you've got this nice guy here, which is what's called a Telecaster, and I'm going to explain that in a quick second. And then you've got here what's called a Stratocaster. Now I'm going to explain the quick differences here. Now I'm going to put this one down quickly. Actually, maybe I'll start with this one. So with a Stratocaster, sorry, I've got the Telecaster right here. You tend to have one or two pickups more than not, and they tend to be strung from the bottom here, so I'm going to show you that in a minute. Whereas a Telecaster tends to have three pickups. I'm pretty sure they all do. And with a Stratocaster, you also usually have the option of a whammy bar. And it might not always be in there, and I can show you how to put that in there because it's really simple, but that's going to be another video, I think. But let's get into stringing this. Now I'm using Ernie Ball strings for this, often used for many very common musicians. This is literally just a list of a lot of musicians I know you've heard of. Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Paul McCartney, Keith Richards, Slash, Jeff Beck, Iron Maiden, Kirk Hammett, James Hetfield, that's Metallica, like Jimmy Eat World, Seether, there's Ghost. So there's just a list of Kenny Wayne Shepherd, just a list of a bunch of famous guitarists here that I know you've heard of a lot of them for sure. And as I mentioned, I'm just looking for the high E's, and I'll show you how I fit those in. I'm going to start with the Telecaster since that's the more complex one. I'm going to start with the Stratocaster since I find that one's a little more of the complex one anyways. So let's get into that. I need my high E, which feels like it's going to be this one. Let me see here. Yeah, that's the one I need. Let's find a place for this so I'm not losing the other ones. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to show you every single string. I was planning on saving the rest of the strings, so I'm not wasting them, right? I'm just doing this more as a tutorial. Actually, I'm going to get that right off of there, because it might just get in the way anyways. No, I'll leave it on there for now. It shouldn't be too bad. Actually, let me pause this as I take the old string out. So I finally got the string out of there, and I've still got the Stratocaster with the whammy bar, but I've taken the whammy bar out. And there's a few other names for a whammy bar. I'll try to take them in this video if I remember. I just don't remember it right now, but I'm going to take this off. Now with the Stratocaster, it's different from a Telecaster because, well, they're strung differently, and you'll see in a moment. So with a Stratocaster, you've got this on the front, and you've really got no way of getting a string in that. What you got to do is go into the back here. You've got these holes, right? And of course, this might be easier when you're handling the guitar yourself, but you just have to know what string you're going for, which is this side, so it's going to be this hole. Then I'm just going to feed it in through here until I can. You have to sometimes do a bit of jigging with it depending on the guitar, but most of the time it's usually not that hard. And you wait for it to come out the front there. There's a little hole there. If I look in there, it'll make it a lot friggin' easier. My gosh, this is not going as well as I would hope for a video. Might edit this out. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna pause the video for a moment until I get this through. And after a few moments of actual focus, I did finally get the string through the hole. Sorry for having to pause the video there, but it's kind of hard to get a good angle to really do this anyways. And from there, you just pull it the rest of the way through, and you obviously just put it into your tuning peg and start to turn it. So then, I personally like to, what I try to do is make it so then my guitar pegs will turn the same way to tune the same way, if that makes any sense. So then, like, because there's nothing more annoying than this guy tunes up this way, this guy tunes up this way, this guy tunes up this way, this guy tunes up that, and it's back and forth, and that could be annoying. So I try to kind of, I personally prefer to have it where they're all tuning the same way. And maybe you're different, but this is just a suggestion of mine to make it easier for you for tuning. And you will just continue to go ahead and start turning it until it's tight enough. And I'll often give it a bit of a pull if it starts to become too loose. And I do have a tuning video, so I'm not going to go through the whole tuning thing right now. But if you'd like, I'll put the tuning video in the description if you're not really sure how to tune a guitar. But let's get into the other one. I'm going to finish this string in a bit. So now on to the Telecaster. And I've already gotten the old E string out. I've gotten the new E string already out and ready. And if you're doing an acoustic guitar, it's most likely going to be just like this. Now if you have the other way, cause I mean, how are you going to get that through the body of an acoustic, right? So your acoustic's probably going to be like this. I'm not saying there's not some different friggin' guitar that's no such thing, but basically, there's I often call this the bridge, but I'm pretty sure the bridge is, well, yeah, I mean, this is a bridge, but there's a hole right at the bottom here that I'm just trying to want to kind of, and it's pretty easy, feed it through, and now it's already starting to go through to this section. So what I'm going to want to do is grab that, make sure it actually, and it should be going through this small little bracket at the bottom as well, like the other strings are. But I don't worry about that right off the bat, just because you're not going to get it to stay there while you're trying to tune the darn thing. And then you bring it up to your tuning peg, and as I said, I prefer to tune it so they're all kind of going in the same direction, just a personal preference. And you just continue to make sure the string you're installing is, to the tune it's supposed to be. And as you're starting to tighten it, you want to make sure that it's going through the bracket at the bottom, but also up here. Sorry, this is actually called the nut. You want to make sure it's going through all these little slips here as well, all these little notches here. You want to make sure your string is going through that. As I said, you'll want to have it tightening a bit first. It'll make it a little easier to make sure it lines up into those little notches. But basically that's it. So if you have any questions, if this wasn't really quite clear enough, feel free to mention in the comments. But I hope this video was helpful for you. I know a lot of guitarists are out there thinking like, oh, this is the easiest stuff in the world. But for somebody who's never done it before, I just figured I'd give you an idea of how to string a guitar quickly. And it's the same with all the strings. I'm just doing the E string, the thinnest one, but they're all the same. So like if you could do one of them, you could do all of them. But I hope you're all doing well and take care. Oh yeah. So before I forget to add to the end of this video, other names for a whammy bar could be a vibrato arm or vibrato bar. And apparently I've just recently realized that a tremolo, I believe it's called, could be also another name for it. Or a tremolo bar. But I hope you're all doing well. Take care.